NFC East, and Dak Prescott. Now, a brother of Christ of mine has been making these bold claims that Dak Prescott's a top 5 quarterback. People are releasing their top 10 list, and Dak is on a few of them. And the people who are saying he's a top 5 quarterback, they are fighting their demons, and they are losing badly. Dak Prescott is not a top 5 quarterback, and I do not believe he is a top 10 quarterback. I think you could realistically make an argument for 12 guys you can have above. And it's not going to be a big debate on everyone. I'll just name 5 guys I don't think any of us are going to dispute. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert. And you can say, oh, Herbert hasn't been in the playoffs yet. I would rather no playoffs whatsoever, complete mystery, than what Dak showed us last year. Any issue with those 5, Tristan?
Well, when it comes to ranking quarterbacks in general, I think way too often people rank their favorite team's quarterback or their favorite team's player way higher than they actually should be ranked. And in this discussion, luckily, I am a fan of a team that has a very bad quarterback. So I will remain completely objective in this discussion. And with the guys Isaiah just named, I agree with all 3 of them. Dak is nowhere near a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, they have the pedigree. They've been there, done that before. Josh Allen, I think we've seen after every season he's been in the NFL, he's only gotten better every single year. Maybe the best quarterback in the NFL at this point. Aaron Rodgers just won an MVP. And with Justin Herbert, along with what Isaiah said, I think he's so talented with what he's done up to this point. The throws he's able to make, most passing yards through the 2 seasons, most passing touchdowns through 2 seasons. He has done more than Dak has done at any point in his career. And if you say, oh, Dak won a rookie of the year his rookie year, he was on the best team in the NFL as from a talent perspective. Best offensive line, had a good defense. I think they won 13 games. If Romo was on that team, they would have been to the Super Bowl. So that's all I got to say about the top 5 that we've listed up to this point.
I think also Bears mentioned that Ezekiel definitely should have won that award instead of Dak Prescott, if we're being 100% honest. Next up, we've got the 2 quarterbacks who just played in the Super Bowl, Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow. I'm looking at Stafford, first season in a real offense, better numbers, more touchdowns, more yards, I believe. Elevated his game in the postseason, threw a massive pass late in the Super Bowl, won his team the game, big pass against the Buccaneers in the playoffs, elevated his game even further in the playoffs. And you compare that to what Dak Prescott did, who got worse in the playoffs and got clowned on by the 49ers, it's night and day. Then you look at Joe Burrow, took a miserable team from last season with Jamar Chase and went on a run. Really caught fire late in the year, beat the Chiefs in the regular season, went to the playoffs, beat the Raiders, beat the Chiefs again. It was just a massacre in the postseason. Eventually lost Super Bowl because his team can't block for anything, but ultimately I would much rather have Burrow. He put up better numbers in some areas, worse in others, but still, he is a young quarterback who elevated his team down to the Super Bowl. Can Dak Prescott say that? No. He's got a better roster around him and still fell short.
Well, when you take a look at what Dak has done over the course of his career, he's been very dominant in the NFC East, a horrible conference, has a phenomenal record against them. But then when you take a look at what he does against winning teams, he's 8-17 over the course of his career against teams above 500. That is not good. And then when you take a look at someone like Joe Burrow, he, even in his rookie season when he tore his ACL, he looked very productive. He looked capable of winning games. He was still in a very bad, not so great Bengals roster at the time. And then once they added a few more pieces, he came back from his knee injury. They have a phenomenal supporting cast as far as offensive weapons go. He goes to the Super Bowl. And then when you take a look at Matt Stafford, of course he spent a lot of years losing with the Lions, but once he got a competent coach, a very good roster, he went and won the Super Bowl. So there's no question that I think any objective coach and objective fan would rather have Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow heading into the 2022 season.
Very well said. Next up, one of my favorite quarterbacks, one of your favorite quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson. And people love to discount Lamar because he's not the world-class thrower. He's not one of the 3 best passing quarterbacks in the NFL. He is a one-of-a-kind athlete. He is the best runner of the football at that position we have ever seen. If you include rushing yards in his total yards, he had more yards per game than Dak Prescott. He dragged an injury-riddled roster to a winning record when he was playing. His team was ravaged by knee injuries. He lost most of his backfield before the season even started, yet he still got the Ravens wins in a very tough AFC North. Lamar Jackson is an elite quarterback. He should be in everybody's top 10, and it's clearly above Dak Prescott.
Well, most recently, we've had the Lamar Jackson slander kind of come to a front again because of the Bernard Pollard comments, and then Lamar Jackson responding to him. And I am so sick and tired of the not top 10 quarterback slander. I'm sick and tired of them saying he's one of the 10 most talented players in the NFL, but he's not a top 10 quarterback, because that makes absolutely no sense. Part of playing the quarterback position is running the ball if you need to and making plays with your feet. It's not just throwing the ball from the pocket. If you're making a list of the top 10 pocket quarterbacks in the NFL, then yeah, sure, he wouldn't be on that list, but he's a quarterback. He can throw the ball efficiently. He won an MVP throwing for 3,100 yards, 36 touchdowns, had like a 64% completion percentage, something to that effect. So he's competent at that and probably the best to ever do it running the football. So the fact that people take him and move him down their list because of his deficiencies passing from the pocket is absolutely ridiculous to me. No one in their right mind moves Tom Brady off of their list or down on their list because he's a statue in the pocket. No one moved Peyton Manning down their list because a toddler could run faster than him. No one does that. So I don't get why we do this with Lamar Jackson and move the goalposts when he's the best to ever do it in one aspect of playing the quarterback position and may just be average to above average in another aspect. And all of a sudden he's not a top 10 quarterback. So many teams would love to have him on the roster.
And the Cowboys are one of those teams. Maybe they won't come out and say it, but if you offered them a Lamar Jackson for Dak Prescott trade one-on-one, they would certainly take it. Next up, speaking of someone who was available for trade recently, I'm going to say Deshaun Watson is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Now, if you want to argue, oh, terrible person, not going to play, whatever, I will be right there with you. He should get suspended for a year. But on paper, Deshaun Watson is better than Dak Prescott. He puts up better numbers with a worse organization. And look, the injury stuff he had early in his career, a little bit worrying. The off-the-field stuff, very worrying. But if I had to choose a quarterback to play in the game to save my life, it would be Deshaun Watson well over Dak Prescott.
Without question, of course, you take Deshaun Watson without the legal issues, but I kind of even took him off of the list because of the legal situation and the fact that he may not play this season. And I think that's also where you slide in Russell Wilson. I think for 2022, most teams would rather have Russell Wilson over Dak Prescott. I certainly would, even though I'm also not the biggest fan of Dak Prescott. So I would also slide him in there above Dak.
I'd say better pocket presence, more accurate with the ball 9 times out of 10, better escape artist, was shackled by being in a Pete Carroll offense, which for some reason loved running the ball even though they had Russell Wilson on their team, put up worse numbers than Dak Prescott last year, but had about 1 billion fewer attempts. So you can definitely mention that. I think most teams would rather have Russell Wilson. I think he's a better quarterback and will certainly produce better on the Broncos than Dak will next year. Then you've got Kyler Murray, and the issue with Kyler Murray keeps breaking down. By the end of the season, he's always battling through some sort of injury. When he's healthy, he is an MVP candidate. He will be a perennial MVP candidate if he can sort his health out, and we are assuming all these guys are on the field and playing with this list. So Kyler Murray, better runner, more accurate, maybe not as big an arm, but still a very talented passer.
So I actually left him off of my top 10. He's one that I kind of missed, or I could see the argument for Dak over him because of his health and inability to perform in the second half of the season. Now, like you said, I do think he's extremely talented. I think he's more talented than Dak Prescott. He's a better passer than Dak Prescott. He's better moving outside of the pocket than Dak Prescott when he is healthy. I just don't trust his ability to stay healthy and win games with Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals offense late in the year and also into the playoffs.
The Cliff Kingsbury issue is a very valid issue. And finally, I'm going to mention Derek Carr. And he threw way fewer touchdown passes than Dak Prescott. Other than that, numbers are similar, incredibly clutch, led a bunch of game-winning drives with worse receiving talent around him. When the world was falling apart in Las Vegas last season, he was still performing game in and game out. He is the only reason that team didn't win 4 games. With the worst situation, he got his team to the playoffs, and he did have that back-breaking interception against the Bengals, whose defense kind of came alive in the postseason, but I would still take him over Dak Prescott.
Well, this is the one Cowboys fans really need to cope with and understand that Derek Carr just is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Carr went to the playoffs with the Raiders last season in a conference that was, I'd say, more difficult than the NFC, while missing the best player on his offense in Darren Waller, I think 5 or 6 games last year, lost the number 1 receiver, lost your head coach during the season, yet still managed to get his team to the playoffs. Derek Carr, year after year, the media tries to float out trade rumors that the Raiders are going to move off of him. When Kyler Murray was coming to the draft, there was rumors he was going to get moved for him. Every year, it seems like they're trying to push the narrative he's going to get kicked out, yet he continuously outperforms expectations and does better. In 2022, he is going to have one of the best offensive weapons supporting casts he's ever had, one of the best in the NFL next season. So I think he's going to put up big numbers and show just why he should be considered by everyone in the media, all fans, that he is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
We have now reached 12 guys, and the Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson issues, health and availability are there. I believe we're at 12, correct me if I'm wrong, but
yes.
We were able to name all these players who are clearly better than Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott stuffs the stat sheet, but does not perform in the postseason. I wouldn't trust him to lead a game-winning drive, and is surrounded by talent. He's had great receivers year in and out. He's had one of the best O-lines, which is gradually going downhill. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does with a worse receiving core, no Amari Cooper, and a weaker O-line. I think it will finally become apparent to some people. He is certainly not top 5 and probably not a top 10 quarterback in the 2022 season. Granted, if he stays healthy and a bunch of the other guys get hurt, he wins by default. So good for him if he does.